Well, ladies and gentlemen, Rasmussen has released their final poll. You can see it does have Trump sitting +2, 48 to 46. Rasmussen, liberals claim, is this ridiculously Republican biased pollster, but in 2020, they did underestimate Trump, just like basically every other poll. And now they've got Trump up to. This is a general popular vote. Certainly something that's realistic. And I kind of expected this because there was a previous poll like a week ago where they had Harris +1, but really throughout the entire cycle, in terms of just the general popular vote, Rasmussen has been between Trump up around 2 to 3 over Kamala. So their final poll, this is it. Trump +2, 48, 46. We can debate whether or not maybe it'll be 50 to 48, and there's not going to be that many undecided or voting third party. But the +2 margin is realistic. We are seeing that from other pollsters as well. We're seeing it align with Atlas Intel. We're seeing it align with the Gallup Party ID. We're seeing it align with the CNN generic ballot. Now, the generic ballot doesn't necessarily mean that the fact that Republicans are +3, Trump's going to win by 3, but you would expect a Republican popular vote victory if the generic ballot is R +3. So that is the final poll there. We've got a few other polls, but I do want to get some other stuff. Voter ID opinion. This is just amazing that amazing is not the right word. It's perplexing, ridiculous that this is not actually a thing. Voter ID opinion. Do you favor or oppose requiring all voters to provide a photo ID at their voting place in order to vote? Guys, this is how ridiculous it is. You need an ID to do so many different things. Like, even when you're seeing a movie, you're like 21 years old or 20, and it's an R-rated movie, they make you bring out your ID. I mean, this is absurd. This is voting in a presidential election. This is the government. So 84% are in favor of it. I don't know what the argument is against it. And then liberals like, well, the cheating's not happening. So why would you not be in favor of enacting this if 84%? I mean, that's basically all conservatives, obviously, that are in favor of this. The vast majority of independents are in favor of this. And even it seems like 60 to 70% of liberals are in favor of this. I don't even know what their argument is at this point, because they were like, well, it's very hard to get an ID. But then they realized how ridiculous that argument sounded. I don't know what their new argument is. And it's just ridiculous how they're like, well, it's not happening. So then why wouldn't you pass this? Why is this not already not a law? It makes no sense. But it is what it is. It's ridiculous. You've also got, let's get to some of these polls here. This is interesting. So look at this. Georgia is going to count at near Florida speed. We may know the winner by 9 or 10 o'clock at night. That's Eastern time, by the way. And wouldn't that be amazing? Because Georgia looks so good for Trump. Really, the Sun Belt looks really good. It really is developing with Harris, and seeing some of these polls, like the CNN polls out of the Rust Belt. For her, it's going to be the Rust Belt or bust, 100%. And if Georgia really steps up their game in terms of counting votes, with what we've seen in terms of polling, with Trump potentially winning the state by a margin of 3 to 3.5, that state could be called early. You could be getting Georgia for Trump. You could be getting North Carolina for Trump by 10, 11 o'clock at night. And then you're just relying on the Rust Belt, because the Sun Belt goes, to Trump with Georgia and North Carolina. And then you just need Pennsylvania. The election's over. You win Pennsylvania, the election's over. And now Republicans are zeroing in on Pennsylvania, with some polls that have come out of Michigan that are closer. There's some polls where Harris is up. Now the betting is 50-50. That's expected. That's fine. It's hilarious how they say, oh, the betting, it's just Republican degens. No, it's based off the polling. We've got some positive Harris polls in Michigan, so the betting is going to follow. And now it's 50-50. That's what happens. It's like, it's just all ultimate cope. Like, they're saying, oh, only Republicans are betting on the election. That's why Trump is up. No, he's up because he's up in all the polls. And he was way underestimated in the polls in 2016 and 2020. You guys know this, and so that's why he's up in there. You've got New Hampshire, Rasmussen with a poll, Harris +1. Such a key state. New Hampshire is huge. Imagine Trump gets New Hampshire and it gets called at 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock at night. I mean, that would be that you could now you're talking about New Hampshire, Arizona, Nevada. You're talking about those states, and you don't even need Pennsylvania then. Because Arizona looks very good as well. But now there's like 2 or 3 positive Harris polls. But now Arizona is going to go to Trump. I'm very confident. Nevada is the 50-50 one, but even Nevada looks decently well for Trump. And then you go Arizona, Nevada, New Hampshire. You don't need any of the Rust Belt at that point. And that just gives you another path if it happened. I'm not saying it's going to happen. This is Rasmussen. So, I mean, listen, maybe Trump ends up falling short by 2 or 3. But I am a little bit surprised Trump would choose New Mexico over New Hampshire. Although apparently he might actually go to New Hampshire, but the polls in New Hampshire, I think it's just like 1 electoral vote different. There's like 5 electoral votes in New Mexico, and there's 4 in New Hampshire. In New Hampshire, you're talking about a +1. I mean, that's clearly within the margin. We had another New Hampshire poll where Trump was leading. It wasn't from the best pollster, but it's still, you're up by half a point this late in the election cycle in a state like that, where you can expand your map. And now you don't need a state in the Rust Belt. If you're able to take all of the Sun Belt and then you take New Hampshire, the election's over. You win. So that's another new path that could come open. Remember, they're going to count New Hampshire really early, being on the East Coast. So that thing, it might be done with the lower population by 11 o'clock at night to where it gets called. And imagine New Hampshire gets called for Trump, and you're just, and Trump's leading in Pennsylvania. It's like 11 o'clock. The election might be over. Trump could also win Virginia. The election's over as well. But there's just, and you want to talk about Virginia. How about this? This is a new update on, I guess, the chances of winning. Harris is down. This is the lowest I've seen from this person who does this modeling. It's normally like 60-40, but I saw this. It's about 53-47. That's a 6% advantage for Harris. Virginia's getting very close. New Hampshire's getting very close. New Mexico, we'll see, but it's definitely Virginia and New Hampshire right now. Those are the states I'm watching. Can Trump potentially extend the map, bring those states in? They're going to be called very early. They're on the East Coast. We could be getting a very early decision when it comes to this election if Trump starts trending in both of those states. You're talking about an extra 15, 16 electoral votes, whatever it is. And now you're not reliant on a single Rust Belt state, because it seems like Harris, because of her bad performance so far in terms of polling in Georgia, it's looking like she's going to lose that state by 3.5 to 4 points. The Arizona polls have looked very, very bad the past month and a half. She's likely going to lose that state. So now she's totally reliant on the Rust Belt, but she also has to keep a New Hampshire. She also has to keep a Virginia. There was money that was taken from North Carolina because it looks like they've given up North Carolina, and they've dumped money into the TV market in Virginia. And now they're, with Virginia Beach and Fairfax County and all the, the liberal hubs, they're dumping money there because they're trying to hold on to Virginia. They're very worried about it. We got big legal news. Pennsylvania lawsuit victory. We just won the Trump campaign RNC lawsuit against Bucks County. Guys, it's getting really ugly in Pennsylvania right now. There are Democrats going around acting like they have this authority because they wear this lanyard. They wear something around their neck like a lanyard, and they say they're like, it's like voter intimidation. They say they work there. They're like polling experts or whatever. And now it's been reported that you'll get these crazy liberal women, these crazy white women going around taking out all the Trump sides, replacing them with Harris walls, and Republicans film it. They're like, we caught you. This is illegal. You can't do it. And they're like, well, it's on public property. There's been 2. One of them was an old dude and the other was an old lady. So these liberals are getting really, really crazy in Pennsylvania. It's getting real bad. There's some crazy stuff that's getting reported. This is great news, though, to see a legal victory like this. They've extended the early in-person mail-in voting through November 1st. That's an extra 3 days because they were overwhelmed, and the Republicans wanted it extended. So this is a good legal victory. There's been other reports. We'll have to see if those end up getting proven true or whatever. But Pennsylvania's very ugly right now. I mean, Pennsylvania is the center of the 2024 election. There's no doubt about it. And you just have to wonder, with Harris not picking Shapiro, I'm not saying she would have won Pennsylvania if she picked Shapiro, but you'd have to think it would be a little bit better of a chance in terms of winning the election because Pennsylvania is so important. But honestly, Pennsylvania might not matter. That could be the funny thing, depending on what happens. I mean, if Trump wins all of the Rust Belt, he wouldn't have even needed Pennsylvania because you win Michigan and Wisconsin. But just in general, you would like to take a New Hampshire to cover yourself, because now all you need is the Sun Belt, and you take New Hampshire, you don't need the Rust Belt at all. It doesn't matter. But you'd like to get the Rust Belt. You'd like to get all the swing states for sure. But you want to cover yourself and you want to give yourself more options. So snatch a New Hampshire, snatch a Virginia, and you're totally fine. And you could even lose in Arizona at that point, I think, and be all right because of the electoral votes in Virginia. Rogan talking about Kamala Harris. I'll summarize it. He basically said she was acting. I mean, it just seems like that entire campaign is so pompous and arrogant and just horrible, horrible people. And they've got no real business being in power or having any type of power within the United States. And Rogan was basically saying that, listen, she was in Austin, Texas. I don't know if it was like a week ago or whenever. And he was like, I will do the podcast at 8 a.m. I'll do it at 10 o'clock at night. He was accommodating to her, but she and her people are so miserable to work with. And he's like, they didn't even get back to me. They left, and now they want me to fly out there and do 1 hour. And so it's just like they're just it's just terrible. And what does Trump do? He goes to the studio. This is a multi-billionaire. He goes to the studio. He sits down and he talks for 3 hours. And the thing with Rogan is, it's almost like, I mean, I think Harris would probably be pretty bad on Rogan, but he's not even trying to like do anything like I got you to Harris. He's just saying, I want to talk to you. Like with Trump, he was very easy on Trump. I don't think he would do an I got you to Harris at all, or like be combative. I think he would just talk to her about her experience, and you would figure it would make her more likable. And my God, you want to talk about Trump, 35, 40 million views. That's with them censoring it. And people say, well, did YouTube censor that? I think it was a combination of things. What happens is liberals will mass report videos that they don't like, and then it'll get not recommended in search results. Now, I don't know if that's exactly what happened with this. And obviously, that's something to where YouTube should know that, and they should be able to disable that mechanism on political videos to stop the manipulation. They don't do that, of course. But if I had to surmise, I would imagine that's what happened, where they mass report the video for whatever, and then the video doesn't get recommended because it's an algorithm thing. If so many people report it, it goes down. But it really shouldn't have mattered. I mean, if it's getting 1 million views per hour, I mean, that should be number one, number one, number one. The algorithm should love that because of the viewer retention, the 3 hours. It's just ridiculous. But it still gets 35 to 40 million views either way. And Harris, I mean, this is way better than any, I mean, a podcast with Rogan would be better than 10 interviews, 10 local interviews, I would say. I mean, I don't know that for a fact, but I would clear my schedule. If I was Harris and Rogan is there admitting, saying, I don't want to be combative. I just want to hear what you have to say and hear you out. We don't even have to talk politics. The fact that she won't do that, I mean, it's pretty crazy. But either way, guys, the final Rasmussen poll, it is a Trump +2, not surprising. Even if Rasmussen is off by a point or 2 points, it's still amazing for Trump because that is just the general popular vote. And this does look like a clear Trump victory, even though the betting might be getting a little bit closer, Trump down a point or whatever. It's going to ebb and flow. That's perfectly fine. You're going to get that. But in general, as long as Trump stays like 62, 63%, that's what I want him at least when it comes to the election. I mean, it'd be fine if he's at 57, 55, but you want him to have momentum going into election night. Either way, guys, that is going to do it for this video. Make sure you follow me on X. Link to that's always in the description.